It's going to happen. It's inevitable. It was always going to happen like this, and it's unstoppable. Like Bitcoin is unstoppable because it has all of these like really cool, beautiful elements to it, right? It's like freedom, it's hope, it's what we want, you know, the future to be, because we see this beautiful mirror that the possibilities that could come from it.
Do you think we're ready for Bitcoin to onboard 8 billion people at this point? Bing bong. I am back with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast where I've got the man with the plan, recurring guest, Carr, coming to
I'm a
you.
recurring guest.
Yeah, I think this is your second time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did interview you down in Austin in PlebLab in person, but this time we're doing it virtually. So thank you so much for joining me here. A little
Dude,
late
thanks for
night
having
chat
me.
with a lot of craziness that went on today, right? I mean, we had the Bitcoin ETF. So, Carr, we made it, right? We're out of the bear market. How does it feel?
Feels like the bear market. Still feels like the bear market, right? I mean, what did we accomplish today as Bitcoiners?
Nothing.
I can't think of anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting day because I mean, I I would love to hear from your perspective because the only really, I guess, thing that I think the ETFs did, and we'll get into a bunch of different stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'll
for sure. Go
just
for it. Yeah.
on top of mind. But I think it just brings somewhat of validity, or some like maybe it brings like I guess the general feeling I felt on Twitter today was some people just felt validated, like, all right, like I beat Wall Street, I beat BlackRock, I beat these guys to the hardest money in the world, this great asset, whatever you want to call Bitcoin at this point. Depends, I guess, how you look at it. But and I think that just kind of validated some of the hodlers that were maybe, I guess, a little skeptical or maybe not as fully like 2 feet in. But other than that, man, I agree with you. I think it was just everybody's just waiting for the number to go up because of it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on it, and then we can kind of riff. But I think ultimately, though, like I like to take a realistic and like wait and see kind of approach to most things. It's just the way I am. I'm just fundamentally built like that. Um, and I think when you look at it, it's like, okay, what did we really accomplish here? Because I think neither side could agree on what they wanted, right? I think if you look at the traditional finance side, they didn't really want this ETF. Like, right? Like, do they really want it? Like, did they really want it? I don't know if they actually really did. And then you look on the Bitcoiner side, and we didn't really want to give it to them either. So that's kind of where my kind of thing is just like it's two different sides that didn't want to meet in the middle. Sure, I think it's going to help with long-term adoption. I think it'll lead to stability and all that stuff. I think I was looking at some charts today. They were saying it's going to be like 2 billion assets under management within the first 48 hours. And then they were saying like by the end of 30 days, it's going to be like 30 billion, or what was it, 5 billion AUM. And I'm just like, what? Like, is this real? Like, maybe. But I think for me as just a builder in the space, it's just like, okay, next day, clock in. Let's just do this. Like I don't know if it actually affects my day to day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think it does. And I think all that was just rumors. Like, I mean, I think that like that's one thing that we learned in the past couple days, right? Because we're recording this on January 10th. On the 9th, we had the fake tweet go out and you saw Bitcoin price shoot up a couple grand and then, fall back down after, Gensler said, oh, our accounts, the SEC account has been hacked and everything on Twitter. And then, today, then it got announced again. And, we've just kind of seen the price fluctuate based on this kind of news, which seems a little fishy and seems like a little bit of market manipulation was going on. But, maybe we could get the tinfoil hats on for that. But I think, exactly like you said, at the end of the day, if the SEC and if the Nasdaq or one of these major companies like wanted to have this Bitcoin spot ETF, it probably could have happened a long time ago. I mean, there's like 11 other countries that have had this before the United States. Obviously, the US biggest amount of money, kind of comes in and out of our, traditional markets. But I think at the end of the day, like, we didn't really want to give it to them. They kind of wanted to fight it. So regulators have always kind of wanted to fight it. And I think too now, like it's like more of just rumors and like the plot of it all, I think is what's more intriguing rather than like the number going to be going up because of, there's billions of dollars left on the sideline. Like, I don't think that that's really the case. I mean, if there was really billions of dollars on the sidelines, realistically, like, MicroStrategy has been a spot ETF this whole time, right? With as much Bitcoin that they hold. And there's been other avenues. So I don't really think, a lot of traditional finance has just been sitting on the sideline. And I don't
Yeah.
really buy any of that at all.
Yeah.
I just think that's been a rumor, and that's been something that it's like, well, there's so much money, and it's just kind of like playing into the hype.
Yeah, and like what we'll see here, like family offices do like 1 or 2% allocations, and then what the Winklevoss tried to do this 10 years ago. Where are those guys at? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, and just speaking realistically about this, yeah, I'm super excited, super happy for the TradFi bros out there, and all the people that worked really hard to get this passed. Obviously, right? It's good for Bitcoin adoption. It allows senior citizens to finally have it in their portfolio of a sort, I guess. But I think for me, the average, you know, millennial boomer, boomer, whatever we're calling ourselves now, like it's just business as usual, right? And that's just kind of how I look at it. Like we still got a long road ahead to get Bitcoin to even mass adoption, much less like, you know, I don't know. We have a long road ahead.
No, I agree with you too. I still think, I mean, I always revert back to, like, El Salvador, right? El Salvador,
Yeah.
perfect example. They've made Bitcoin legal tender, but if you go there, kind of just anecdotally, what people say is about 10 to 15% of merchants have accept Bitcoin, and it's legal tender there. It's been legal tender for 2 years. 10 to 15%. I don't want to undermine that. That's a significant amount, because there's probably nowhere in the US where you could point to a specific city, or even like maybe even like a zip code or a neighborhood, that 10 or 15% of the merchants accept Bitcoin. But, it's still like a long way to go for adoption. But as a guy that's working in PlebLab with a lot of startups, here's where I think that this Bitcoin spot ETF helps you out a lot, or helps, startups. It adds validity in that respect, where it's
Yeah.
like traditional finance is already in it, right? So now maybe some more VC money, some more people that are not just necessarily Bitcoin only, are going to start to get, maybe I'll call it crypto curious, and kind of get back to Bitcoin. Do you think that that's going to be the case? Obviously, you got to project at this point because it happened today, but yeah.
Yeah. I think for a lot of us, we saw this happening. I want to say like August, September, October of last year. Like I started seeing just more people from the crypto Web3 space come over into Lightning, and because of Nostr and some of these other intersecting technologies. I think here just locally at most of our meetups that we have around Central Texas, I've seen just more TradFi guys, whether those are just like people that are working for some small family offices, or even some of these agency guys, right, that are just like doing some accounting stuff. They're all trying to figure out how to position themselves inside of this like ecosystem of builders and all that kind of stuff. So I've just seen that personally, just like the people that I have met. And then you also have just like, the podcast number, right? Like even my personal podcast I do spare time, like that one has seen increased downloads and increased things. Obviously, with all the PlebLab stuff that we have going on, all of these people are seeing the inbound too. So I think, yes, I think you're right, 100%. I think it's going to lead to more people interest being piqued, and I also think it's going to lead to more building and hopefully more more allocation towards the builders in the space, because I don't think they get enough as it is. So
No, 100%. And yeah, I mean, I think, we saw Dorsey like donate a bunch to Nostr devs, and there's been some other like kind of philanthropic, I don't even know if that's the right word, but philanthropy, or people donating to devs in the space, because obviously, there's not a lot of just money circulating. So I think just making that I guess more accessible, right? I mean, bringing money into people who are, I mean, obviously there's a lot of very talented devs out there, but you got to make a living at some point in time,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah. I was talking to Ben Woosley on the pod, and he was describing this very same thing. Like, more actually, believe it or not, this is a fun fact, but Nostr devs get more funding than Bitcoin devs. It's interesting fact, right?
why? Why
I
do you
don't
think
know. It's just the way they've done their grant process. It just kind of leads to more Nostr devs getting created, yeah, which is cool. I think the other side, though, you are seeing like the Van X, right? I think I don't know if it's out there publicly yet, but they were saying that they're going to give 5% I guess all the money that they've earned from this ETF, 5% is going to go to Bitcoin devs, which is amazing, right? You also have people that are already out there doing this, like the Chainco Labs people. They just released a whole like protocol, like developer thing. It's free, right? And that's funded, by like what you're describing, right? Just philanthropy stuff. And I think we'll see more of that kind of stuff. I think we'll see more of this happening because there's far too, like, Bitcoin is far too important not to fund these people. And I actually think we'll get to a point, and this is like crazy car talking, but I actually think to a point we'll literally get to a point where you're going to have to pay these Bitcoin developers an insane amount of money for them to, work with you or even be associated with you. I think it's going the way of like the NBA or like the NFL, where you're like signing contracts. I think that's how valuable these devs are. And I don't think people realize just how valuable they are. They're very valuable.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's a
Not only
skill.
to Bitcoin, but to like anything and everything around them.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a skill that not very many people have, right? I mean, so when you have a skill that not very many people have and it turns out to be a necessity, I mean, obviously like the NBA and all those kind of stuff, that's like entertainment skill that, everybody probably wishes that they had,
Yeah,
the insane athletic ability, but
yeah,
you know,
think about this, Brandon. Like, remember when Jordan was playing in the NBA, right? Like how much he had taken the NBA from the 80s till the end of the was it the 90s? Like, it like had 10, 20x whatever the size was.
yeah,
He didn't get a cut from the NBA. Like, I think he was the highest player at that time. Same thing with LeBron. Like LeBron, Kobe, like they took it to another extreme when they. So I think the days of being able to do this stuff and not reap any benefits from a foundational level are gone. I think Bitcoin just kind of is that thing that just kind of flips a lot of the stuff, where it just makes you look at things a little bit differently and a little bit more fairly. That brings value to everybody who's involved. I don't know. That's just where my mind is these days when I think through.
yeah, that's interesting. But the one thing that I'll push back on that
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
is that the Bitcoin devs and like a lot of Bitcoiners just in general like to be extremely private. Whereas like, the NBA and like all these athletes, they're like very much like, they're on TV, they're in commercials, they're in your face. I mean, I would love to see like a Bitcoin dev like on
Have
like
you
on a
seen
Wheaties
Super Testnet?
box.
Have you seen Super Testnet? He's like the most
Yeah,
popular out there Bitcoin dev that I know.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
if it's a TikTok yet, but it's coming soon, I'm sure.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll get super test nets on a Wheaties box or something. I don't know, man. That would be
It
pretty
might be
awesome.
on the Wheaties box. You never know. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. No, but I think what I've come to realize is most of these devs do want attention, right? And I think you're right. They do, they do want their own privacy and stuff like that, but they do want the attention for their work, right? Rightfully so. Like, anybody wants their attention for their work, but I think Bitcoin devs don't get nearly as much attention as they probably should. And that's why we created PlebLab, right? So
no, 100%. And I think that's, obviously that's why, I love what you guys are doing down there, and I try to support you guys as much as I possibly can, because I mean, I just the value of the dev space is just, I feel like it's completely just like undervalued, right? I mean, a lot of people, they kind of go down the rabbit hole of, maybe mining or for the philosophical aspect of it, but the dev side of things, I think is extremely important. And I think that's the most important aspect to get moving for adoption, because I had Isabella and Julian on our pod, or on my pod, maybe a couple weeks ago now at this point, but they went to Peru. And one question that Isabella raised was like, do you think we're ready for Bitcoin to onboard 8 billion people at this point? And, it's kind of been a question that stuck with me, because I personally don't think we're really ready for that yet. I think that there's a lot of bugs in Lightning. I think, the fees kind of aspect of it right now is probably a little bit too high on chain. So, but I mean, as somebody that, interacts with a lot of devs, where do you think the shortcomings are right now? And like, obviously you see a lot of stuff that's building, and like, where do you think, if you had to project out, like, do you think, is it like a 5-year deal? Do you think it's like a 10-year deal, until we're ready for, the whole globe to be
yeah,
onboarded? Like, where do you think it's at?
yeah, I can't really give you a date or like one of those things. I can tell you where the pain points are, just seeing it on the front lines. I think the biggest pain point is just most of these people who are in charge of, like, or not in charge, that's the wrong word, or who contribute to this Lightning ecosystem are either underpaid, not valued, or they don't have any funding to do this FOSS wise. And I think that's what I see time and time again is those three things. And then the fourth one is just they get no due. Like no one's out there saying these amazing things about them and what they created. There's just no one doing that. I think we try our best to and this is because we're still severely understaffed here at PlebLab, but we try our best to push all these people's projects and everything that they're building and try to give them the limelight as many times, as many possible chances as we can. But even with that, it's still not enough. And so that's where I would say it's just the lack of funding to help these people, the lack of funding for themselves, the underpaid process of it, and then also just some of these big because a lot of what you see in the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's all shared intellectual capital that they're all sharing with amongst each other, right? And so a lot of these just wrote an article about this very same thing, and it in the article I described like this intellectual capital that's shared amongst all these Bitcoin companies, but they all have to have it in some way or another, and the ideas of these things that's how you measure some of this stuff. And some of these ideas already been happening prior in 2018 or even before then, and then they get reimagined for this new era, 2023 2022. And I think just allowing teams to experiment is probably the first thing they need to do. Is just give them enough funding, enough runway so they can go experiment. And I'm talking about all the open source stuff, whether it's like Core Lightning, LND, right? Just like anything and everything that could possibly use help, right? It's just like help those teams who are severely, either understaffed or just don't have enough money to bring on open source contributors who are out there and ready to start making a difference. So that's kind of what I see over and over again. It's just those kind of pain points, but hopefully I described that pretty well. I don't know if I did. Might have
No, you
botched it.
did. You did. And I think like one hurdle that I can see now that, traditional finance might start to come in and for that funding aspect is the free and open source aspect of things. Because, traditionally in business, like in the US, it's been kind of this cutthroat mindset, right? Like you can't let anybody know your secrets or, how you did something, what your business plan is, like everything needs to be behind closed doors. But Bitcoin's very different in that space, right? I mean, the free and open source movement is great, and it kind of lets the cream rise to the top, right? If you had some error or if you could do something a little bit better, more efficient, that way, that solution will probably be the one that ends up winning out. But in that aspect of things, like if a traditional finance person were to come in and kind of, I guess, question you or maybe push back on the free and open source aspect of Bitcoin and a lot of these developers, how would you, I guess, reply to that as to, the benefits of it and kind of, yeah, not, I guess just the benefits.
Yeah, I can just give you examples. I can just give
Yeah.
you examples, and I think that'll better explain it, right? Like you have somebody like Snacker News, Keon, who's like Foss, who's out there, has a project that he's raised money on. Also, is completely open sourced it all. It's out there if you want to run your own Snacker News or whatever, and yet he's still able to maintain whatever trajectory that he's headed towards, right, or path or milestone. Same thing with the Mutiny guys. Mutiny guys are doing all this free and open source. You could literally run your own Mutiny node, right? And then be able to do everything that the Mutiny guys are doing. Yeah, so that's where I would push back. I'd be like, hey, there's total examples here. And a lot of it comes down to like reputational capital, right? You have like these people who have like this built-in trust over the course of these years of proof of work that they've all put in. There's that. There's also the small ecosystem that they all live in, so they all know more than likely what everybody's working on and that kind of thing. So there's really a lot of checks and balances there, more so on like just like an ecosystem community level, and it's just a really small community, this dev community, and so everybody knows everybody and that kind of thing. So that's where I would say is like people know who need the most help, and that's the unfortunate thing is like most people realize like who does need the most help, but it usually takes a really long time for that to kind of go through because it's just like it has to get to the top of whoever has that stack of Bitcoin that could help that person. So that's what I've seen over the course of my 2.5, 3 years. It's just that type of thing. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
No, it answers the question definitely. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, the proof of work being put in too. So, I guess I guess because it's a tight knit group, and everybody kind of understands what somebody's working on, like what those kind of things. Obviously, a place like PlebLab would be a great place to kind of come in and maybe get your feet wet, get some exposure to that. But outside of I guess that, is there other like avenues and channels that a dev, I mean, you guys have some courses at PlebLab too, but some stuff that uh,
yeah,
so that
there's
stuff that
none.
somebody can do, yeah, stuff that somebody could do that wants to get started in being a dev,
Yeah,
and
there's
kinda like
so much now.
yeah.
When we got started in 2021, when we decided to do this whole Pleb Lab thing, there was I don't know of anybody doing like uh any type of in-person thing, or like education stuff other than Chain Code Labs. I think was the only one. Um, so and then even workshops. I don't remember ever seeing any workshops that were live or bringing people there. You know what I mean? Like there was TabConf and stuff like that, but there really wasn't a lot of places that I would say just for Bitcoin only, like Lightning only stuff. Um, Now there's just like everything, anything and anything that you could, there's no excuse now not to be a dev. There really isn't, dude. And so what's great about now is like you have like Bitcoin plus plus, right? It's a conference that's a world conference. Probably going to come to your major city or country at some point in the near future. You also have pleb devs, stuff that Austin is doing, right? He's doing that online. So there's no excuse for no one who doesn't want to learn how to code. He's literally doing it online every day. You also have Base 58. So like Chainco Labs, they also have like an academy that you can join and do classes. And there's Udemy, there's like all sorts of like online lessons and education stuff. Even Austin's doing that with his pleb dev stuff. TabConf is like a big, like, premier, like just conference for developers. And now they're starting to add more and more different types of discussions and stuff like that. So that's really cool. I think you even have Bitcoin conference. Like, give credit to Bitcoin conference. Like, they do this every year where they have like startups come and pitch, even if it's only for like 2 hours or whatever. But they do their part. I think they had the FOSS stage. I think it was a lot smaller this past year, but in years past it's been bigger. And so yeah, you can literally go down the line. There's SatsConf that just happened here, and then there's just all these hacker spaces like PlebLab that are popping up everywhere, dude. There's some everywhere now. So there's really like now, like, dude, in 2021, when I looked out there and we were like, okay, how do we do this? Like, who's done this before? Who do we copy? There was no one to copy. It was just all from like our own minds of like how to do it. And luckily, people saw what we were doing. Two crazy guys in a field, just dancing by themselves, and then everybody came over and started wanting to dance too. And then it became a whole revolution, right? And now you're seeing just more and more of these average Bitcoiners just like stepping up and doing what they need to do for their community. And that's the way. Like, it's this grassroots movement. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. It was always gonna happen like this. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. And it's just gonna keep progressing, and it's unstoppable. Like, Bitcoin is unstoppable because it has all of these like really cool, beautiful elements to it, right? It's like freedom, it's hope, it's what we want, the future to be, because we see this beautiful mirror that the possibilities that could come from it. And when you have something like that's wrapped up like that into a culture that gives before they receive, it's really hard to not bet against that. You know what I mean?
What's up, everybody? We're taking a quick commercial break here to bring you the sponsor, the Bitcoin Advisor. Are you wondering, how can I guarantee the security of my Bitcoin? How can I shield my Bitcoin assets from any unexpected loss? What happens to my Bitcoin assets after I'm gone? How can I educate my family about these investments? And lastly, can I invest these investments into my retirement fund, into Bitcoin? Well, I can help you with all of that. You can book an appointment with me. The one and only, you can't clone me, Brandon from Green Candle. If you go to the link below, thebitcoinadvisor.com/green candle, that's advisor with an E. I get tripped up on that. I'm not a great speller, but I can help you with all of those questions I mentioned earlier. All right. Now book an appointment, and I'll see you back at the episode. No, 100%, and that's awesome. I love that, dude. Now you got me all fired up, man. I wanna run through a raw wall or something. I mean, that was awesome. But, I mean, you're nailing it on the head too, and I just think, like, that aspect of the community is kind of, I guess, I don't wanna say, like, undervalued or anything like that, but, maybe it's, yeah, people just don't understand that the shadowy super coder, right? I mean, like, everybody that I guess kinda got into Bitcoin at first, probably has a little nerd to him, right? I mean, like, we all kind of had that curiosity of that. And so maybe it, like, the shadowy super coder doesn't have I guess the normal, I don't know, the jock appeal or whatever it is. But I think that's going to start to change, right? I mean, I think, the narrative around that is starting to be flipped. Like, being a nerd is being cool now, dude. So I think your comparison earlier about, almost like an athlete kind of, becoming, or maybe a Bitcoin dev kind of becoming in the limelight like an athlete might start to flip, because I think, more and more
Dude,
of these things are, yeah.
dude, Brandon, I've just seen it firsthand for close to 3 years at this point. Like, I've seen these people go from, like, you know, to now they've raised all this money and now they're super sick. Like, I've seen that happen multiple times. Like, this is not, and that's not a measure of success by no means. I've seen people go the opposite way, like Super Testnet, where he just came in as this guy who wanted to build, I don't know what, at that colored coin stuff at that time, like in early 21, and he was fiddling around with Nostr and we wouldn't pay attention to him. And then now he's like this prolific guy who's building Doom on freaking Bitcoin. So I've seen every sort of different thing that's come to fruition. And honestly, like, I can't wait to write the book, because it's going to be an epic book on, like, how, like, all these people came in and then now where they're at. And I still see it to this day. I still see it. I still see these people around me who just amaze me every single day when I look at what they're really building or working on. Like, Topher just created this whole bit escrow thing, and now he's like talking about it at bit devs and stuff. And it's just like, wow, like, this is a guy I just go get lunch with, like, that's what I'm trying to say. Is just like, I understand and appreciate these people, but I also think there's this great video that Jordan Peterson has, and I don't know if I've shared it yet online, but I should. But he talks about these, like, intellectual, like, it has advice for hyper intellectual people. And he talks about how some people they just need to be around other hyper intellectual people, because that's the only way they're going to be able to function day to day. It's just like why a weightlifter hangs out with other weightlifters, or why, like, guys who love football go hang out at a bar together. It's because they have this passion and this need to talk about the things that they're passionate about. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin developers and Bitcoin builders. It's like they want to be around other people who are doing the exact same thing, so they can, they can elevate their own skill set or their means of intellectual capital that they have for themselves. So I think that's just how I kind of look at it. And I've just I just barely started understanding this, late last year, when, because I think the last time we talked, I just taken over PlebLab and all that kind of stuff. And now that I have time to actually not drown, I can actually look around and kind of see this stuff. I can really start thinking through this stuff and start writing it down, because a lot of this stuff it's really precious. It's like a really interesting thing to witness. And I don't, yeah, I wish I could describe it another way, but I don't know if you've seen it, Brandon. Like, you've seen what it looks like. It's special.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's interesting because, obviously Jordan Peterson is who he is, but, you and Kyle, when you guys first started PlebLab, you saw that in a sense too, right? You wanted to provide a space at PlebLab for people to kind of come together and, make sure that all Bitcoiners can kind of help build in one central location. So you were a little ahead of Jordan Peterson, or ahead of that video that you saw there, Cars. So give yourself a little credit there too, man. But I mean, I agree with you too. I mean, I always,
I'm like the left side of the bell curve kind of guy. Like, it's still, like, I'm very slow. Like, I was talking to one of the guys here earlier today, and I was like, hang on, you're going too fast. Like, I can only think on, like, seriously, I can only really think like one thing at a time. And it's because I put all my focus on, like, this conversation that we're having, putting all my focus onto you and your questions, because I can't do multiple things at once. I'm really slow like that. So
Man, it's all good. It's all good. Multitasking is overrated, dude, because I think like yeah, it's all fragmented then at a certain point, right? And then you forget some things and you kind of get you know, you kind of get fragmented thoughts and you get lost. I mean, that
I,
was like one of the things I talk to every time I come down there. I always say like the water cooler talk at PlebLab is something else because instead of just being like, how is the game? It's what are you working on? And
yeah,
then the other people are kind of like, oh wait, this will help me with my project. And then all of a sudden you see them both get on a whiteboard and all of a
yeah,
sudden they're just writing scribbles that I could barely understand, but then they come up with something awesome. So I
yeah.
think
It's
like
really cool to see.
yeah, it's really there's really something to that that's like pretty, I guess, undervalued, but I think more people are kind of, I guess, catching eye to it because it seems like a lot of, I guess, mini pleb labs are starting all over the place. It seems like so. It seems like you guys were kind of ahead of the curve, but you're inspiring a lot of people in the Bitcoin space. So, what
Yeah,
is
I
your,
mean,
I guess, you seeing that kind of stuff like start to pop up? Whether it's Bitcoin Park, obviously everybody's got their own little twist to it, but all these other like unique little areas around the country and around the globe kind of popping up.
yeah.
So yeah, what
I
do you
was
think?
just real quick to that. I think that it's interesting because like when you put yourselves in a situation where you have to think outside the box because it either hasn't been done before or you can't get the support that you need for it, you get really inventive and really creative with how to look at it, right? And that's one of the things I would say. Like I used to get really bummed out. I'd be like, oh man, we can't get funding for this, we can't get funding. And now I look at it like an opportunity. I'm like literally looking at it like, cool. So I only have this much to work with, and I need to go and do this and this. And then before I know it, I figured it out. And I think it's because of like just having an artistic background. That's my background. It's just it's just artistry and trying to figure out hard things in really hard situations. And when you're able to look at things a little bit with a little bit more imagination and a little bit more kind of meticulous detail as to how to do it and the steps to get there and stuff like that. I think for me, that's probably why I take really long time to think through things is because I have to like sit there and really think for a really long, hard time for like, how is it going to play out? Will it play out this way? Why will it play out this way? What are the touch points to it playing out this way? And I kind of play it like a movie in my head, if that makes any sense. And I don't know of anybody else that thinks like that, right? And so I think when I think through some of these hard situations, it's like one of the biggest things I've been thinking through for like 6 months now is like, how do I bring PlebLab to every major city, every major town in the world? And I think I figured it out in my head, but I need to go and write it on paper and like think through it, then look at it again, then once I get to a place where I think it's solvable, this is what's great about working at PlebLab. I can literally go to Keon and be like, hey, tell me I'm crazy. Tell me this is why it won't work, right? Like this is what I sketched out. Tell me why this won't work. I spent 6 months thinking it through, and he'll either say yes, yes, or no. And that's just kind of how I approach things at PlebLab. Is before I do anything, I run it through the guys, run it through everybody here in the lab, and kind of pitch them first. And if I could sell them on it, then it's an easier sell to everybody else.
Are they a hard sell? Is that what you're trying to say? Is like, or have you figured out how to sell them just yet?
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's a hard. It's just like when you have an idea. This is goes back to what Jordan Peterson was talking about, right? Like you want to hang out with other people that are smarter than you, right? And because you can take this idea and they can literally look at it 6 ways to Sunday, and then like either flatten it down or say no, that works. Because a lot of the times, what you get in the Bitcoin space, and this is just me being honest. I don't think I'm going to hurt anybody's feelings, but it's the truth. Most people you take to with an idea or anything like that, they'll look at it like, yeah, go ahead and do it. Like, yeah, it could work. They'll give you one of those, or they'll be like, no, yeah, yeah, sure. Or they just won't give you anything at all. And it's either one of 5, 6 different things. And you know, it's very rare somebody will say, no, this is why it won't work, but it could. And this is what you should do to fix that. Have you looked at it this way? Should you do it this way? And I just come to realize in the Bitcoin space, most people just pat you on the back and tell you, oh man, you're killing it. You're doing a good job. And it's just like, that's it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just everybody's busy with their own stuff. But here at PlebLab, we're designed to, offer assistance, right? It's not required. It's optional. But I think you get more value when you can share these ideas with others. And especially if they can build up this idea and make it much greater than where it is, I think it's even better. And I think that's why I think the PlebLab is, and like some of these other hacker spaces are so valuable, is because they allow people to do that, right? Like I was talking to the ATL BitLab guys, and they're crushing it over there. Like they're doing these amazing, like these micro apps, right? With the bot that they're doing. It's so cool. I wish we could do that here. We just don't have that type of like thing that they have over there. It's just different here. So that's where I would say everyone's going to be a little bit different. Everyone's going to have a little style and a little flavor of its own. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. I would just say if you do it, like make sure you have a thought out way of paying for it, because that could be hard.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like yeah, I mean, like last time we spoke, I think on the pod, you were just recently taking over CEO at PlebLab. And so, obviously, it was kind of you're a first time CEO, first time founder, all that kind of stuff. But it's been a little bit of time now. You said you have a little bit more time on your feet. You're being able to, I guess, sit back and reflect now. And then maybe, after this ETF, maybe we're getting out into the bull market. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what 24 has ahead of us. But, it seems like everybody in the Bitcoin space is very amped up this year. But anyway, regardless, being a CEO in a bear market is, pretty difficult. And I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons. So I'll leave you the floor here for you. Like, what are some of the valuable things that you think that you've learned, throughout the past, I don't know, what is it, at least a year or so?
Yeah.
Since, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different because this is like one of those times where, yeah, it was good to step in because it was, we not only were we going through like a recession, but like also everything was just like the startup space, just in the tech ecosystem generally. The whole thing was just operating a different way than years past. Meaning, you were never going to see these types of crazy checks cut. Also with the AI stuff, a lot of jobs were getting cut, slashed, and so maybe somebody like myself was required to do 10 different jobs now. And it's not a surprise that I took over at the time that I did, and then was able to do a lot more roles, if that makes any sense, just because of what AI can give you and some of these other aspects. Obviously, we have support and help now, and we're doing really good as a small little team. But at the time, I remember thinking like, oh, wow, like, how is this going to work? Like, that's impossible to do all these tasks. Definitely has gotten easier. Definitely just pure staying in the game, staying in the ring, whatever you want to call it. Like, you just get better at what you do just naturally. And typically, just in my life, it's always taken me 6 months to get good, just like basic good at something. It's been well past 6 months now. I finally feel like I have my feet under me, and I definitely feel like I'm operating confidently now than I was 2 months ago. So I would say there's that. And I think just the more and more you stay in the game, the sharper you get, and you just know, yeah, you just inherently know what to do. And I think doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that's a measure to success or anything like that. I just think it there's just, it's forced growth. Like you're forced to grow, and you either grow or you don't. And I've seen it 2-3 different ways. And most people like most Bitcoiners will grow. Like they'll grow through it. But yeah, I got a long way. I'm like baby. I'm still a baby. I'm still learning how to walk and stuff. So
Well, I think, on that point, right? I mean, it's kind of like the entrepreneurial
the other thing
aspect.
I will say, the other thing I will say though, too, just, and this is the last point, is there's no one I can go to for advice. Like, and that's the thing I think I've come to realize is like, who do I go to? I don't have Paul Graham like in my text message. Like, who do I go to for advice? Like, there's no one building anything like this, right? Luckily, I have a great relationship with the Wolf team, so I can ask them and bounce them off ideas. But other than that, who else can I actually talk to that's doing the same thing that we're doing for as long as we have?
Yeah, I
No,
mean, that's
there's not a lot of people. There's like maybe 3 people in the world, like
yeah.
Odell, Rod, and like Kelly and Brian from Wolf, and that's it. Like those 4 guys. Who
I
else?
mean, yeah, that's the positive and the negative of of being a pioneer in a space, right? I mean, you're figuring it out as you go, right? You got to roll with the punches, but I think it's made you and, PlebLab just very resilient, right? I mean, I think, obviously coming out of, whatever, if we're coming out of this bear market or not, I don't know. But, at the end of the day, it seems like more and more people are, getting eyes on Bitcoin, and more things like what you're doing are popping up. And, uh, I guess success leaves breadcrumbs, or trails, or whatever you want to, whatever phrase you want to use. And it seems like a lot of people are starting to emulate and, like what you guys are doing down in PlebLab. So I don't know. In my eyes, man, that's a win for you. I think is like,
Yeah, well, no, and I'll tell you why I don't look at those as wins. I'll tell you why, and it's not for the reasons you probably think. It's because I've with PlebLab, I've taken a outside perspective now, if that makes any sense. And I think before, for the longest time since we started, I've always taken like a real personal, like coveted arrangement with the way I feel about PlebLab. And now I treat it more, since stepping into the role and then really understanding what this role really is. I kind of taken more of it like a removed position from it, as far as like letting it be what it wants to be. Like, if that, like, letting others to inform me of what they think it is, and then really looking at it from like a really realistic approach. And I don't think I ever did look at it prior to early 2023. I don't think I know I didn't. Like, I always looked at it more personally, like it was my baby. And I don't look at it like that anymore. I look at it as like, okay, what does it need to do to help the ecosystem? Like, what do we need? Where do I need to get PlebLab so we can start making contributions again to the ecosystem? Because I don't think we made that many contributions last year, to be honest. This is why I have such a high bar with what I think we could possibly do here. And I don't even think we're even close to where I think we can be. And I think when I look at the future of PlebLab, it's like, okay, cool. Let's get us to a place where we're so healthy that we can actually start making like really great contributions to the space again. Because I don't think we did in 2023. And so that's kind of how I see it. But I think you have to look at it like that in order to have like a more objective, like mission first kind of mindset of what you want to accomplish with the company that you're having to run.
Yeah, I feel like what you're describing, I'm gonna use like a little bit of a metaphor. Is like at first you're underwater and you're trying to get to the top, and now you feel like you got your head above water, and now you're looking where to go, where to swim to, kind of thing. And then you're trying to get on that right path, to get to, I don't know, wherever, shore or whatever it is. I don't know where exactly I was going with that full metaphor, but that's kind of the way I'm saying
Yeah.
it. But with that, I mean, it seems like you guys have had, you have some big plans for 24. So I'll give you the floor here, man. What are some of the big plans you guys got? Because I mean, when I was down there for Christmas break, or so to speak, I
Oh yeah.
give you a little sneak peek, man. So I want to share that with the world if
Dude,
you're willing to do it.
that was a good steak, right?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
had a pleb for the audience at home. We had a pleb steak at Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, shout out Texas
Not bad.
Roadhouse, man.
Not Texas Roadhouse. They can cut a really good what is it? Like what they call it, like a boot cut or something.
Yeah, something like that. Like we got a little, yeah, I think I got a little surf and turf too. So I got a little shrimp in the steak. I think, it was a good little time.
Yeah, yeah. So for 2024, the first thing that we're trying to, I mean, we have a lot of plans. I think just the main focus right now is like trying to get to Top Builder. So Top Builder is this kind of like crazy idea that I pitched Wolf about. Hey, what if there was a Top Chef for Bitcoiners? Like, what would that look like? And so obviously we're not going to have all of them come here and live out of a house for 2 months and put put whatever it would be every week and all this kind of, even though I want to get to that at some point, Brandon, I really do, because I really think they'd be the most watched show. Like I really do think it would
Yeah, I
be.
mean, I think that would be a sick reality show.
I've
You get
seen,
all these like just devs, just you get them on camera, just like up at like 2:30 in the morning, just typing
yeah,
away. Just
people don't understand how they work, and it's fascinating to watch. It's and the interactions to where their mind goes when they think through things, and then how they get to the solvable part. It's like, oh, that's how they did it. Like they were talking about, and then before you know it, they're here, and it's like, and then boom, whatever comes out of that, and it's like everybody uses it now. Like it, and when you see that, like that thing, it's like watching I don't know how to describe it. It's like watching an orchestra. Like it's just like seeing how all those interesting parts play together and how they're all just like, you know. doing their instrument. Anyway, Top Builder, we're doing that March 14th during South by Southwest. It's going to be here at the Bitcoin Commons, our neighbors, and we're going to have a full day of like panels. You're going to be there. You're going to be a moderator.
I
I
am.
don't know
There
if you
you
know
go.
that yet. Yeah, I think you do know that. And
Yeah.
then you've already agreed to it, Brandon. There's no
Yeah.
going back.
Quick commercial break to bring you some of the dopest Bitcoin merch in the game. That's Hodler's Official. That's HODLERS official.com. You can go and get yourself a black jersey like I got on right here, or a white one where you can get the Genesis pack with the 09 on the block, repping Satoshi, repping the #1 guy in Bitcoin. And you can get yourself the best merch by going to hodlersofficial.com and using promo code GreenCandle for 10% off your entire order. That's 2 handfuls of percentages, ladies and gentlemen. 10% off. You can use the rest of that to purchase more Bitcoin or do whatever you want with it, but I'm saving you some Skrilla Manila. So go ahead and get yourself one. I prefer the black, but if you like the white, I don't mind that either. All right, now back to the show. Well, hey, now it's out there. So if I don't come up with my part of the bargain, everybody's gonna hate me. So I will be there. Don't worry. We'll have people with pitchforks outside of Green
You're like,
Candle.
where's green candle? They'll
Yeah,
be all
exactly.
holding green candles. So yeah, so like literally, we're gonna, and then from 2 to 5 that day during startup day, we're gonna have the Top Builder. So right now, dude, it's crazy. I think we have like 50 something submissions. I haven't checked today's, but I'm sure it's even more. So we had like 50 something submissions. I've interviewed over like 40 people at this point for Top Builder. I think we have a total of like 10 or 11 people that have actually gone through the whole process. And there is a whole, like, it was just a natural kind of like filtration thing to get them down to Top Builder. And it wasn't as hard as you think, but you can really find out a lot about a person and how enthused they are about a project if they'll go through the next step, right? If they really are willing to go through the next step. And so a lot of what I saw drop off was at these different steps. And you would normally think like, oh no, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure it's easy for, no, for something like this, you definitely want to make sure that they actually really want to do it, because it's going to be intense, right? Like they're going up against some of these other builders that are really want to win this thing for different reasons, you know? And so this is going to be really cool. So during startup day, be a Top Builder event from 2 to 5. They'll present, the judges will judge, and then from 5 to 7 there'll be a small little mixer, hangout. You'll be able to talk to Brandon and hear his thoughts on everything. And then it'll, from 7 to 9 will be Bit Devs, because Bit Devs is that evening. And then the people will announce the Top Builder. And then there'll be like a party afterwards, after Bit Devs, which is always a good time in Austin. And this is on during South by Southwest. And then the next day, the Bitcoin Commons is going to be doing the Bitcoin Takeover event, and that's going to happen on Friday. And they're going to have tons of panels there, and it'll be another party. And then I think there'll be other small events that happen during that week. We'll throw some private events here, and we'll invite everybody and all that kind of thing. There'll be workshops. It's going to be a whole vibe, dude. It's going to be a
Yeah, I'm
whole vibe.
excited. There's always like a startup day. I mean, it was before Bitbog Boom last year. I was always, it's always a good time. But I really resonated with the point that you said, the filtration system, about just getting somebody to follow up basically and like complete the next step. Because like back in my heyday when I was a good old grad student at the great University of Texas A&M, I was basically like, I don't know, working in a lab, and we would have undergrads come to interview to be in, working under us, basically like help out, and they could get research credits or whatever. We would have like 50 or 60 people that we would interview. And then we would literally tell them like, hey, if you send one follow-up email after this, it will raise your chances significantly to get the position. And out of the 50 or 60, we would get maybe 4 or 5 follow-up emails, and we would give it to those 4 or 5 every single time. Because no
Shoot
matter,
or
like,
shoot, Brandon.
yeah, it's like, even if the interview was like, I mean, unless the interview was just absolutely atrocious, it's just the effort and the desire, I think, is like 90% of the battle before the skill. Because I just think, like, there's something about having passion behind a project, or, trying to figure it out. It's like, you can't really coach or teach somebody to have that passion to wake up in the middle of the day or middle of the night and, have that aha moment and go and just, type away, kind of like what we're describing at like 2:30 in the morning, just, working tirelessly just to go to it's like something that somebody is truly passionate about and, really loves to do. And so that's what I'm most excited about. One is to see, meet all these people, kind of hear their thought process behind them building, and then also kind of like see the passion behind it, and like
Yeah.
I always think it's like super inspiring to see something that somebody maybe dreamt of or thought about a little bit and then making it come to life and working extremely hard to do it too.
Yeah, I think for me, when I think through some of this stuff, it's like, what do I enjoy about the whole thing? It's just seeing for me, it's seeing the transformation. Like I really love seeing things come to life, especially when it like starts from an idea or like it has an inception from there, or just like a bounce off, the wall type of idea, whatever it could be, and then seeing it transform into something, and then before you know it, you know, hundreds of people are using it or whatever, and it's seeing their reaction and seeing the wonderment behind it. To me, that always gets me every single time. And so no matter how many times I do this, I just like will always try to ingrain in my head what that looks like initially when they pitch it to me, and then seeing it, 6 months, a year, whatever it takes, and then seeing the result of it. And for me, when I have a very good photographic memory, and so when I think those two things, I'm like, yeah, that's for me. That's what it's all worth. It's all worth it for that.
100%.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
so where are you guys in this phase, right? I mean, you said you had like maybe
yeah,
40 or 50 more. Is there room for in you have like 10 in, right? How
yeah.
many
So is
do you
this going to be released next week, right? So
have
okay, so yeah, if this gets released next week, then by that point we would have already killed submissions. So to dude, it was crazy. So we've been just hitting it hard this week with trying to get the word out there. So we've been seeing more and more submissions. Um, and so I've been booking more and more of these calls, which I'm glad to. It's an opportunity to. And then we have like I think Bitcoin Magazine published. I think Shinobi published something today for PlebLab. One of our people was able to get it there. So shout out Shinobi for caring about the builders and stuff like that. So I think even more is going to come from that. And then so we're gonna kill submissions at midnight on the 13th, which is Friday, or Saturday at midnight. And then from there, we'll onboard the rest of them, and then we'll start working with them so they can achieve their milestones. The way we have it set up is where every project that's coming in, they have, like I said, they have a lot of them see success in a lot of different ways, whether that's like trying to get a grant from OpenSense or from HRF, or if that's trying to get pre-seed funding, or if that's trying to go to Wolf, right, and do it big, or if that's just trying to bootstrap a Bitcoin business over the course of 5 to 10 years. We want to help them do that. We want to help them do all these things, right? So whatever success looks like to them. And so a lot of these different projects have different aspirations and a lot of different avenues and where they see their projects going, and they see themselves going into this kind of Bitcoin ecosystem, because now it's a very fruitful environment, especially what we were just talking about earlier. Not only that, but just kind of where we're sitting. Like I think before, I don't remember seeing builders and devs get this amount of respect before, but they definitely are now, and it's really cool to see. So they're going to be able to pick the avenue that they want to go in, and we want to help them do that. And so we'll have the first round going from January 13th to February 10th. We'll cut those teams in half, and then for the next 14 days, they'll set more milestones. We'll cut those teams in half, and we'll get it down to like 4 or 5 or 6, and bring them to Austin, and they'll pitch for top builder. You'll be there, and
yeah.
then we'll literally see. This is where I was telling you, right? Like I love meeting these people and seeing what they turn into, because now I'll have that first conversation that I had with them, and then to see their reaction and face when they win top builder. For me, that's what it's really about. It's just like, wow, saw them, rise to the occasion and just like get it. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. Well, where can people follow along? Is it going to be,
yeah.
obviously the Twitter and that kind of stuff, or
Yeah. So another thing we're doing workshops every weekend. So we'll have like 3 workshops this weekend. And then every week after that, we'll have about 2 workshops. One will be on the Bitcoin business startup side, and then the other side will be like a technical workshop, right? And so we have like people like from Moritz from Albi, or if it's like Darina from Slice, or whoever it is, Topher from Bit Escrow. It doesn't matter. We're gonna show it, and hopefully this will help the builders get to where they need to be for their projects. Obviously, all that stuff's optional, but we want to get it out there, get that content out there, and then also, um, I think at some point we will see just more and more, coverage of this, and we have some ideas of how we're going to do that here in the months leading up to Top Builder on the 14th, but just kind of wait and see. I would say follow like YouTube, follow PlebLab there on YouTube, follow our Twitter on Noster, Zapstream. I mean, we're literally everywhere. We might even have a LinkedIn. I don't know.
I think you guys do have LinkedIn. I've been tagged in like the comments, like LinkedIn posted too recently. So, yeah, I mean, you guys are everywhere. So, yeah, definitely check them out. And the promotional videos, you guys, if you haven't seen them already, you got to go back and watch.
Yeah, Logan's killing it, dude.
Yeah.
He just has. Oh man, I'm so glad I met that guy when I met him. He's just brilliant. I can't say enough good things about Logan, but just seeing his progress and like what he's capable of doing now, it's just like today where he came by and he was just like, we were just like talking through some stuff, and he's like, yeah, what are you thinking for this thing? And then I was just kind of, we were like going back and forth. And it's interesting because like there was a time where like I would have to lead that conversation in the early days. Now I don't. Now it's just like he's bouncing this thing off of my head and I'm thinking through it. And I was like, wait. And then there was a moment where me and him connected like mentally without saying anything. And I was like, I was like, did you know you were doing that? Like, did you know you were doing this? He goes, of course I did. I was like, oh my God. It like blew my mind because he didn't have to say anything. I literally just like looked at him, saw him for like 5 seconds, and I was like, like what? So it's really cool because like this is a friendship and like, you know, business relationship that we've been growing for what, as long as the one that me and Kyle had, right? It was just as long, like, you know. And so it's really cool to have that thing now with him where I'm just like just amazed with what he brings. So anyways, can't say enough great things. Also, I should shout out Teresa Martin's an angel. She's come and helped PlebLab in a lot of ways and been able to really get us to where we need to be, get me personally where I need to be. Also Julie, who's been stepping up and helping us too as well. BTC Retriever, he's just been killing it on the design stuff. Scoresby is another guy, and then everybody in the lab willing to give their time to see PlebLab, you know, stick around. So, dude, it's an honor. It's an honor to do this gig. Really is.
Yeah, it's a great community you have at PlebLab and a lot of great people helping you out. I mean, I've had the chance to meet all of them, and it's it's awesome. Every time I go back to Austin, I always get super bullish. I tell you that I always get jacked up every time I talk to you guys.
You just get ready to run track or something.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I don't know, man. Maybe just like I'll do like something like smash my head through a wall or something like that. I don't know, man.
Do that.
You just get hyped up. Yeah, but everybody needs to go check out PlebLab. If you haven't already, go to their website, go check them out. If you want to take a course or do something like that, there's nothing I can't recommend more than checking out PlebLab and everything that they got going on. So, and Carr, you're always the man, and thank you so much for your time and hopping on the show, man.
I also just want to say thank you, Brandon. I don't. Let me just talk to your audience for a second. I don't know if you realize, Green Candle listeners, but this guy cares so much about just everybody. Sometimes more than I see that he should care more about what he's working on. But this guy is legend. I don't think people realize just how much like tenacity he has, and with the guests and everything that you do, Brandon. Like, listeners, if you're out there listening to this, like, Brandon works his ass off for y'all. So hopefully you appreciate him. Definitely zap him.
Thanks, Carr, dude. I always appreciate that, dude.
Also, thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. You're a legend in my heart.
Couldn't do it without your support, man, and the support of all the listeners and everything like that. So, I mean, I enjoy it, so I want to keep doing all this stuff, and I'm going to. So, there we go. Big things ahead in 2024 for the both of us, man. I can feel it, man. I can feel it.
Yeah, you're gonna be. Yeah, dude, your star is rising, like Nick Harlan said.
My star will continue to rise. Right? All right, man. Thanks so much.
All right.
If you enjoyed this interview, you're going to love my recent interview with Parker Lewis. You can find that right here you can go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that bell notification so you get notified whenever I drop new videos. All right. Thanks so much. Catch you at the next one.